All right, folks, we will call this September 13th, I believe, is it? September 13th, thank you. September 13th meeting to order. We'll start with approval of the agenda, followed by the invocation given by Mr. Tim Martin. Then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance presentations. We have none. Citizens' announcements are limited to 2 minutes. Then we'll move through our consent agenda, which has the August 28th, 2017 regular commission meeting minutes, the August 30th, 2017 budget workshop meeting minutes, invoices, Florida Municipal Power Agency by Mr. Bill Conrad, proclamation declaring September 2017 as Public Education Awareness Month. Then we'll move into our public hearings and ordinances, discussion and adoption with changes, if any, of the proposed operating millage rate for fiscal year 2017-2018. Notice of proposed property taxes, proposed operating millage rate, citizens' comments and questions. Item 4 is Resolution 2017-27, a resolution determining and adopting the tentative rate of taxation on real and personal property and making the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the city of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2017 to 2018 and providing an effective date. Item B is discussion and adoption with changes, if any, of a tentative operating budget, debt service budget, and budgets for other funds for fiscal year 2017-2018. Item 1, Resolution 2017-28, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the city's budget for the 2017-18 fiscal year, providing for the tentative appropriation of funds of the City of Newberry for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018, approving a proposed general city budget, setting a public hearing date, providing for publication of notice and providing an effective date. Item 2, second and final public hearing to adopt the final millage rate and budgets will be held on Monday, September 25th, 2017 at 7 p.m. in the Newberry City Hall. Item C is discussion and adoption of utility rate changes. Number 1 is legislative public hearing and first readings of ordinances 2017-27, 2017-28, and 2017-29. A is legislative public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2017-27, an ordinance pertaining to wastewater service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates in section 98-155 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, repealing our ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. Item B is legislative public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2017-28, an ordinance pertaining to water service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates and amending sections 98-154 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, amending ordinance number 2016-11, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. Item C is legislative public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2017-29, an ordinance pertaining to solid waste service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior Chapter 78 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newberry to update the rate, structure, and conform to the city's franchise agreement with Waste Pro, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. D is legislative public hearing and first reading of ordinance 2017-18, 2017-19, 2017-20, 2017-21, 2017-22, 2017-23, 2017-24, 2017-25, and 2017-26 of the City of Newberry, Florida, amending certain portions of unincorporated Alachua County. And that item, after I've read it all, is going to be pulled on request of staff and move it to the Monday, September 25th. I just wanted to do it one more time, just for fun's sake. And then we will move on to agenda items. A is Resolution 2017-29, Pay Grid, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving the adoption of a compensation program and salary schedules for City of Newberry employees, repealing all resolutions in conflict, establishing an effective date. Item B is 2018 legislative items, Alachua County delegation meeting. Remember, we were supposed to come back with 3 or 4. If you forgot to do that as we work our way towards that item, maybe you'll go back to those legislative agendas and pick out some of your favorites. Then we'll move on to comments, city manager, city attorney, city clerk, commission, mayor, citizens, and then we will adjourn. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as read, as amended? I have a motion by Commissioner McGehee.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Glanzer. Any comments or questions before we move to the vote?
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner Martin.
I know it's in our backup, but 7D, is Mr. Conrad expected to be in later? I think he's out of town.
It's in the consent agenda, so once we do it, we won't have a presentation on it. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. We'd like to invite Mr. Tim Martin to the podium to give us our invocation. We'll remain standing for the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening humbly and in your grace. We certainly appreciate the hand that you had passed over to the city this past week. We ask that you continue to watch over us as we rebuild and fix all the material things that we have here that have become broken. We certainly appreciate the efforts of everyone here in the city, and we lift them up to you as a symbol of the grace that you have within this community of Newberry. We pray for this in Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that invocation, Mr. Martin. Now you can come back on the dais and become Commissioner Martin once again. Okay. Now we have no presentation, so we'll move straight to citizens' announcements. Mr. Day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for your time today. I'm Marlon Day, Alachua County Library District, Newberry Branch Library Manager. I hope that everybody is well following the hurricane. The library reopened today and resumed normal hours. I have three things I'd like to mention to you tonight that I think you'll find interesting. First, the deadline to apply for the Fall High School Internship Program is Friday. If you know any juniors or seniors that are looking for 10 hours for 9 weeks, it's a very flexible schedule, and it is a paid internship. The application is online. I also left some with Mr. Marlowe, with the mayor. Second, on Friday, September the 15th, this Friday, at 3 o'clock, our children's librarian is teaching us how to make bento-style lunches. These are sure to make your lunches more fun for our children, and we look forward to partaking of that. That's going to be fun. And lastly, on Monday, October the 2nd, at 6:30, Matthew Burke will be giving us a program entitled 10 Tips to Help You Stay Alive When the World Falls Apart. And I think this information will be particularly useful in light of recent events. We were discussing work, we're like, well, we should have had this program a couple of weeks ago. That's all I have for you tonight, if you have any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Farnsworth.
I was just kind of curious, you can go to the Lions Club mode and tell me how the Lions Club did with their garage sale and fundraising.
I believe I don't know the final numbers because we didn't have our meeting last night. It was canceled due to the hurricane. But when I left, there was more than $400 we had raised just that day, and I'm sure it was more than that because that wasn't counting the chicken dinners. We did pretty good.
I can't remember what the update was either, and we didn't get the final numbers, but it was a pretty positive day. So maybe we can do another one for Irma.
Yes. We will have, from here until May, with the Lions Club, we'll have our the event the first Saturday of each month, as far as a yard sale.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Any other citizen comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? I have a motion by Commissioner Farnsworth, second by Commissioner Martin. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion approved unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to our public hearings and ordinances. If you're listening at home, this is a highly technical and legal, so we have written it all out. We'll do our best to make sure we get through it in a precise way. But the City of Newberry Commission hereby convenes the public hearing on the City of Newberry's fiscal year 2017-2018 proposed millages and proposed budget as required by Florida statutes, Chapter 129 and 200, and advertised in the Truth and Millage notices. This public hearing was originally scheduled for Monday, September 11th, 2017, as advertised in the Truth and Millage notices mailed to all property owners. Due to the threat of Hurricane Irma and pursuant to Executive Order 17-235 of the Governor of the State of Florida and an emergency order of the Department of Revenue, this meeting was postponed. Notice of cancellation and notice of the new hearing were posted on the door of City Hall on Monday. If anyone in our audience is here for the purpose of contesting their assessment, a petition for adjustment with the Value Adjustment Board should have been filed no later than 5 p.m. yesterday, Tuesday, September 12th, 2017. The petition forms were available in the property appraiser's office. This evening, we will take a number of actions related to the adoption of millages and budgets. The final public hearing on these matters will be held on Monday, September 25th, 2017 at 7 p.m. in the same location, Newberry City Hall Chambers, Newberry City Hall Commission Chambers. I encourage you, if you have not already done so, to get a copy of the agenda so you may more easily follow the proceedings this evening. Citizens' comments will be taken following the overview of the proposed budget by the City Manager and Director of Finance Administration. The City Attorney will now present an overview of the truth and millage legislation, followed by the City Manager and Director of Finance Administration. Explanation of the proposed rollback millage rates. Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, in 1980, the Florida legislature adopted what is known as the Truth in Millage legislation, or TRIM, as it's called. The goal of the legislation was to ensure that taxpayers were advised of the public hearings at which the local taxing authorities' budgets and millage rates are considered and adopted. Each year, the property appraiser completes an assessment of the value of all property and certifies to each taxing authority the taxable value of the property within its jurisdiction. Each taxing authority then notifies the property appraiser of its proposed millage rate, its rollback rate, and the date, time, and place of the public hearing to consider the proposed millage rate and the proposed budget. Once the property appraiser receives the information, he then sends a notice by first-class mail to every taxpayer on the assessment roll. The notice contains the information from the taxing authorities as to the proposed millage rate and the time and place of the public hearing. The notice sent to taxpayers is called the TRIM notice. The TRIM notice lists what the taxes were for the prior year, what the taxes will be for the proposed budget changes, if they're made, and what the taxes will be if no budget changes are made. This information listed is for each taxing authority. The notice also lists all voted levies for debt service. The purpose of the TRIM notice is to provide taxpayers with sufficient basic information to enable them to participate in the public hearing process. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. During this year's budget process, the City Commission held 4 budget workshops to publicly discuss the budget for fiscal year 2018. City staff has compiled a budget with direction from the City Commission given during these workshops. The budget presented before you tonight includes the following major items based upon those discussions. A merit increase of up to 4% for city staff, 25% increase in fire assessment, $25 increase for fire assessment. Thank you, Dallas. Creation and funding of a vehicle replacement fund, reduction in full-time staffing at recreation, no dedicated funding for general fund reserves, continued funding for renewal and replacement of existing infrastructure, funding for a law enforcement study, water and wastewater rate adjustments, an increase of 1.5%, no electric rate or mosquito control increases, solid waste rate reduction.
Mr. Mayor, one of the requirements of the Truth in Millage legislation is to provide information about why proposed millage rates are higher or lower than the rolled back millage rates. The proposed millage for the City of Newberry is 5.9999 mils, which is 3.05% less than the rolled back rate of 6.1888 mils. The rolled back millage rate is defined as the millage rate which, exclusive of new construction, additions to structure, deletions, and property added due to geographic boundary changes, which will provide the same ad valorem tax revenue for each taxing authority as was levied during the prior year. The reason the city is proposing a reduction of the millage rate is due to a tax valuation error that will be corrected during the property appraiser's final certification of values. The rate of 5.9999 mils has been set to provide funding for the Commission's appropriations. The total city proposed budget for fiscal year 2017-2018 is $23,101,638, which is a net decrease from the amended fiscal year 2017 budget of $31,341,557. This equates to a 27% decrease, or $8,239,919. This decrease is mainly due to paying off of outstanding debt related to Champions Park in the current fiscal year 2017. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments on the tentative budgets presented to you this evening, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, I would now like to invite citizens to comment on the fiscal year 2017-2018 proposed millage rates and proposed budget. Please come forward to the podium if you wish to address the commission. We do request that each speaker try to limit his or her comments to 3 minutes. The hearings will continue until everyone who wishes to address the commission has had an opportunity to speak. Citizen comments, if any. Seeing none,
Mr. Mayor, there's also an opportunity for commission and mayor questions or comments.
Okay,
Just to make sure
absolutely.
we stay on track. Sorry about that.
Does the commission have any questions or comments at this time? All right.
Mr.
Seeing
Mayor,
none.
the document before you, the City of Newberry fiscal year 2017-2018 budget summary, includes the items and changes that were described earlier. Any additional adjustments to the proposed budget should be made by motion at this time.
Okay, does the commission wish to make any adjustments to the proposed budget? Commissioner McGehee.
I had actually talked to Mayor Marlowe about this over the last couple of days. In light of the extraordinary response that the city has shown, I know that he and I had talked at one point about looking at doing like maybe a one-time bonus for employees, but I think something that after discussing it and thinking about the possible problems we could have in doing such, it's one thing that I would like to propose that we do or add into this budget is possibly setting aside a couple $1,000s to have a really nice kind of a formal steak dinner or something to recognize all the efforts that were put forth not only by the city of Newberry but the Alachua County Sheriff's Office and the volunteers that were involved in the storm and before, during, and after. I know that the mayor and I had talked about having this for those volunteers or for those employees, and then selling tickets to the public to try to help offset that cost. The only reason I'm suggesting that we put it into the budget is just so we make sure that we have that covered. I know personally I'm going to donate to that, but if we don't have enough people come forward and donate, then I'd just like for it to be something nice, that we put together, and hopefully we don't even really have to spend that money, that people would actually help us put it on, but just kind of as a safety net. But that's my suggestion.
Commissioner Glanzer.
I agree, we need to do something to formally thank these people. I mean, they got out in harm's way and made it so that we could be comfortable. In addition to that, I know there were some restaurants that helped provide food to the shelters, and maybe when we do our banquet or dinner, whatever, we could reach out to those restaurants and actually pay them this time for food they're going to provide with us. So I'm all in favor of that. I don't know what the dollar amount is, I don't know how you want to set that, but whatever it takes to show them that we appreciate what they did.
Dallas.
Mr. Mayor, there is currently a surplus of revenues over expenditures of about $2,000 that could very easily be put into something like that. Anything above and beyond that would take some massaging of numbers, but there is $2,000 that we can very easily put into it.
So what I've heard is a proposal to set aside $2,000 to make sure we have a formal banquet, thank you, celebration. We would invite the volunteers who really stepped up, the ASO officers, the restaurants, perhaps would figure it out. We'd sell tickets to the public. I know I've had a lot of requests for us to do something right along the lines of what Commissioner McGehee is offering, and a lot of people who said they would support it. So we would sell tickets to the public and hope that the ticket sales to the public would cover the cost of the event. The $2,000 would be held as sort of a backup to make sure that it goes off without a hitch. Yeah. And then we spend whatever we have to out of it. Is that the gist of the idea? Commissioner Glanzer?
I had another, well, I don't know about selling tickets. That kind of doesn't feel right to me. I mean, everybody participated, got affected by this, and some citizens maybe want to come and show their appreciation and can't afford to get there. Maybe we could set up like a donation box or something and say suggested donation $10 or something, but people could feel free to come even if they can't afford it, because I just don't want to exclude anybody that can't afford it when they might have participated in cleanup or help or volunteer.
Well, I think the idea is if you participated, you get a
You
free
get free,
ticket.
yeah.
If you're the employee, the ASO officer,
Well,
you get
right.
a ticket for free.
Yeah.
It's the people who want to show their.
Well, they want to come and say thank you, and if they can't
Yeah.
afford it, I just don't want to exclude anybody. That's my opinion, but I'll go either way.
So and according to our finance director, we have currently enough money that we could probably do that without changing the budget. We could
Well, I would still need a motion to appropriate that $2,000.
to appropriate that money.
But I
Okay.
wouldn't need to do any changes in revenues elsewhere or anything.
And we could figure out the details of what this banquet looks like at a later date. So, Commission, any other comments on the idea before we entertain a motion to move that? You want to finish swallowing there, Commissioner Coleman, or did you? I thought it was reach for the mic or chew at the same time. I know it's a talk. Yeah, Commissioner Farnsworth.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I was just kind of curious as to, do we budget for the Christmas party each year, or
Yes, sir. It's budgeted in each department's operating.
out of each department? Okay.
Okay, do I hear a motion then? Commissioner McGee, you
a motion that we set aside,
appropriate the 2,000.
appropriate the $2,000
For
Do I-
special events, for appreciation.
Appreciation banquet.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Geehee and a second from Commissioner Glanzer. Any other comments? Any comments from the audience on this potential idea? Did it shock you?
Joy mentioned the restaurants and such, but I know there are a number of people in the community who either cooked meals for Easton or collected bedding and things like that. So we want to make sure we try to catch those people too.
Don't you have a $50,000 contingency
Could you
fund that
introduce
you have
yourself,
available
sir?
to you?
Mr.
You have a Stainfield
Stainfield.
citizen? You have a $50,000 contingency the commission can use however they want. We've never touched it. That could be used for that.
Thank you, sir. We'd get the governor to come to that party. All right, any other comments towards the motion? Any other? Commissioner, let it record show, Commissioner Coleman wants AC/DC at the party. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Was that unanimous? Motion passes unanimous. Okay, Mr. Director of Finance, we have a slightly amended budget.
So noted.
Continue.
Florida statutes require the name of the taxing authority, the millage rate to be levied, the rollback rate, and the percent increase over rollback rate be publicly announced. Accordingly, the City of Newberry City Commission has determined that a proposed millage rate of 5.9999 mils is necessary to fund the proposed general city budget. The proposed millage rate represents a decrease of 3.05% from the rollback rate of 6.1888 mils.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the resolution before you that I'm about to read in its entirety is a resolution determining and adopting the tentative rate of taxation on real and personal property and making the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the City of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2017-2018 and providing an effective date. And I'll go ahead and read the resolution by its entirety. This is resolution number 2017-27, a resolution determining and adopting the tentative rate of taxation on real and personal property and making the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the City of Newberry, Florida for the fiscal year 2016-2017 and providing an effective date. Whereas after due study and consideration, the City Commission for the City of Newberry has determined that it is in the best interests of its citizens to establish the tentative millage rate within the city at 5.9999 mils on each dollar of valuation of the assessment roll for the city for the fiscal year 2017-2018. And whereas the gross taxable value for operating purposes not exempt from taxation within the City of Newberry has been certified by the county property appraiser to the city as $368,107,917. Whereas pursuant to law and utilizing the rates established by the City Commission on or near August 20th, 2017, the Alachua County Property Appraiser mailed a notice of proposed property taxes to each taxpayer listed on the current year's assessment roll. And whereas the said notice of proposed property taxes advised the recipients of a public hearing to be conducted by the City of Newberry's City Commission on the state for consideration of its tentative budget and the proposed millage necessary to fund said budget. Whereas the public hearing has been held as specified in the notice of proposed property taxes and in accordance with applicable law. Now therefore be it resolved by the people of the City of Newberry, Florida as follows. Section 1, that the rate of taxation and the annual levying of ad valorem taxes for the fiscal year 2017-2018 on property, both real and personal, as listed and assessed on the city assessment roll of property within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, for the fiscal year 2017-2018 is hereby made and set at 5.9999 mils on each dollar of valuation of said assessment roll B, and the same is hereby levied for the general and ordinary purposes of the city government of the City of Newberry, Florida. The tentatively adopted millage rate is 3.05%, less than the rollback rate of 6.1888. Section 2, the Director of Finance and Administration is hereby directed to advertise the tentative rate of taxation and all other notices as required by the state of Florida. Section 3, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adopted by an affirmative vote of the majority of a quorum present at the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, at a regular meeting this 11th day of September. Well, actually, it's the 13th day of September 2017. Mr. Mayor, signature for yourself, the Honorable Jordan H. Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, attested by our Clerk of the City Commission, which is Judy S. Wright, City Clerk, and approved by myself as to form and legality as Scott Walker, City Attorney. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution number 2017-27 as read by its entirety.
Do I have a motion? A motion by Commissioner Farnsworth.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Martin. Okay, Commission, do you have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, do any citizens have any comments on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. City Attorney?
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the resolution before you next is a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the city's budget for the 2017-2018 fiscal year, providing for the tentative appropriation of funds of the City of Newberry for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018, approving a proposed general city budget, setting a public hearing date, providing publication of the motion, and providing an effective date. And now I'll read this resolution by its entirety, Mr. Mayor. This is resolution number 2017-2728. A resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the city's budget for the 2017-2018 fiscal year, providing for the tentative appropriation of funds of the City of Newberry for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018, approving a proposed general city budget, setting a public hearing date, providing for publication of notice, and providing an effective date. Whereas Florida statutes section 166.241 establishes procedures and requirements for the adopting and administering of the municipal budget and requires that the governing board of the City of Newberry adopt a budget for the city each fiscal year. Whereas after careful consideration and study of the proposed budget for the City of Newberry, including all items that are necessary and proper as provided by law for the fiscal year beginning on October 1st, 2017, and ending September 30th, 2018, the City Commission did, by motion, approve and adopt the budget for the said fiscal year by this resolution. And whereas said budget contained the estimates of receipts and balances brought forward as part of the budget presentation. Whereas the City of Newberry Commission has complied with all conditions precedent to the adoption of a proposed general city budget. And whereas the City of Newberry City Commission, as of this date, adopted Resolution 2017-27 approving the proposed millage rate to fund the proposed general city budget. And whereas the City of Newberry has determined that the 2017-2018 tentative budget summary for all funds of the City of Newberry attached hereto as Exhibit A summarizes all revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $14,140,903 and reserves brought forward in the amount of $8,960,735 for a total revenue and other financing sources available to the city in the amount of $23,101,638 and appropriations in the amount of $14,199,540 with reserves appropriated in the amount of $8,902,098 for total appropriations of $23,101,638. Now therefore be it resolved by the people of the City of Newberry, Florida as follows. Section 1. The 2017-2018 tentative budget summary for the City of Newberry attached hereto as Exhibit A is hereby adopted. Section 2. The public hearing will be held to consider the final millage rates and final budget for general city purposes on Monday, the 25th day of September 2017 at 7 o'clock p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard in the Newberry City Hall Commission Chambers, 25440 West Newberry Road, Newberry, Florida. Section 3. The Director of Finance and Administration is hereby authorized and directed to prepare and publish all necessary and required notices prior to the hearing established herein, and to provide copies of this resolution to all parties as may be required by applicable law. Section 4. All resolutions or parts of resolutions in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. Section 5. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its adoption. Section 6. If any section, paragraph, or part of this resolution shall be declared unconstitutional or invalid, then the remainder of this resolution shall not be affected thereby and shall remain in full force and effect. Adopted by an affirmative vote of the majority of a quorum present at the City Commission meeting at the City of Newberry, Florida, at its regular meeting on this 13th day of September 2017, and signature for yourself, Honorable Jordan H. Marlowe, our mayor, attested by the clerk of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, Judy S. Rice, our city clerk, approved by myself as to form and legality, S. Scott Walker, city attorney. The appropriate motion is to pass resolution number 2017-28 as read by its entirety.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Martin, second by Commissioner McGehee. Does the commission have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, does the citizens in the audience have any comments on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Director of Finance.
A public hearing will be held to consider the final millage rates and final budget for the general city purposes on Monday, the 25th of September, 2017 at 7 o'clock p.m. or soon thereafter as the matter may be heard in the Newberry City Hall Commission Chambers located at 25440 West Newberry Road, Newberry, Florida. Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the next three items relate to your utilities. I will first discuss the water and wastewater ordinances and then the solid waste ordinance. The City of Newberry establishes water and wastewater rates to generate revenue sufficient to meet its operating expenses. Staff evaluates utility rates annually during the budget process, and if warranted, recommends rates be adjusted. Staff utilizes models for developing its water and wastewater rates to forecast customers' water consumption, wastewater generation, and anticipated expenses to determine whether rates will produce revenues which are sufficient to meet expenses associated with providing water and wastewater services to our residents. Many of the city's costs to provide these services are fixed or have increased, such as personnel services, fuel, repairs, etc. Staff proposes a modest increase of 1.5% in its water and wastewater rates to ensure the funds operate in a self-sustaining manner. At the City Commission's budget workshop on August 8, 2017, city staff presented these proposed water and wastewater rate changes, and the Commission gave consensus to include those rates in the tentative budget. Customers were properly notified pursuant to Florida state statutes in the August bills. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments on the water and wastewater rates.
Does the commission have any last comments on those? We've discussed them during the workshops. Do you have any other comments? Okay. City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and read the three ordinances. We'll start with 2017-27. I'll read these by title only. And the first ordinance is an ordinance pertaining to wastewater service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates and section 98-155 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-27 as read by its title only.
Do I have that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Glanzer, a second by Commissioner McGehee. Does the commission have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Do the citizens have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Mayor, City Commissions, the item before you is an ordinance pertaining to wastewater service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates and section 9-155 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. I'll go ahead and read by title only the ordinance number 2017-28, an ordinance pertaining to pertaining to water service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior established rates and amending section 98-154 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry, amending ordinance number 2016-11, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2017-28 upon its reading by title only.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Farnsworth. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Coleman. Does the commission have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, does the audience have any discussion on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Director of Finance.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, as you know, earlier this year, the Commission directed staff to issue a request for proposals for solid waste services. That RFP resulted in a contract with Waste Pro with lower rates than were previously billed and saves the average residential customer more than $60 a year. The ordinance before you cleans up our code in terms of solid waste, and it agrees the code to the current contract and adjusts the rates to the current rates.
Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Mayor and City Commissioners, the item before you is an ordinance pertaining to solid waste service within the city of Newberry, amending the prior Chapter 78 of the Code of Ordinances of the city to update the rate structure and conform with the city's franchise agreement with Waste Pro, repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. And the appropriate motion is to pass ordinance 2017-29 as read by title only.
I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth and a second from Commissioner Coleman. Does the commission wish to discuss the motion on the floor? Does anyone in the audience wish to discuss the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And that will bring our public hearing to an end. Let me just say this is the 7th budget I've been a part of with the city of Newberry, and while this was certainly an interesting process, it was interesting for reasons unrelated to our budget. I compliment staff on the work that you guys have done. We made it through tonight without anyone screaming or throwing anything, and that's a compliment to staff and your ability to listen to 5 different voices and bring some consensus. So good job, Commission. Excellent job, staff. And I'm glad to see another one in the books. We removed item D, so we'll move right to our agenda items, Resolution 2017-29, the pay grid. And Dallas will take us away on this one as well.
Mr. Mayor, the City Commission adjusted the pay classification and compensation schedules last year to conform with the market. The Commission adopted a resolution establishing the pay ranges for each job classification. In order to ensure the pay scales keep up with the market, staff proposes an increase to the pay ranges by 1.5%. This does not relate to anyone in the city receiving a COLA. No employee's pay will be adjusted as part of this resolution. It may affect the starting pay of future employees or the top-out pay of employees when merit raises are assessed. Existing employees will be evaluated for merit increases this year based upon their performance. Staff plans to propose slight increases annually in pay schedules that are consistent with the price index in order to avoid ending up in a position like we previously were, where the city needed to make significant increases in pay schedules to get to the market.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and read the resolution by title only. This is a resolution number 2017-29 of the City of Newberry, Florida, a resolution of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving the adoption of a compensation program and salary schedules for the City of Newberry employees, repealing all resolutions in conflict and establishing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass Resolution 2017-29 as read by title only.
Now do I have a motion?
Move to approve Resolution 2017-29.
I have a motion from Commissioner Glanzer and a second from Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, any discussion from the audience on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That will bring us to our 2018 state legislative items.
Mr. Mayor, before we get there, I want to compliment Dallas on putting all that together. The script that we just went through makes sure that we hit all the marks as far as the trim law is concerned. It's very complex. He sorts through it just excellently. And by doing what we just did, when the state checks us in the Department of Revenue, we get high marks for meeting all the marks. So as hard as it is for me to stay on script, he does that work, and it pays dividends for us.
Absolutely.
Come audit time. So very, very nicely done, Dallas.
And
I would say the same. Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, if I can jump in and dogpile, I didn't get a chance to say this going into tonight's discussions and considerations, but special appreciation to all staff. Our budget process involves every employee, right down to the one that was hired 2 weeks ago. We solicit their input. It's compiled by their supervisors, their crew leaders, and their supervisors, who then get it to department heads, then get it to Dallas, who has the very daunting task of putting it into a meat grinder, pushing it all together, sitting through 4 budget workshops, soliciting y'all's input, and trying to come up with something that's budgeted and best reflects the desires of the commission. And it's a tremendous amount of hours that goes into it. This year there was a lot of parallel budgets. If we do this, if we do that, and so every time something will come up, what do you want me to do? Just do one more parallel one, Dallas. We just keep going broad, and when we finally get a decision, get to where we want to get, we'll pick that one and move forward. So without belaboring it tonight, is an awesome job by all of our staff, particularly our department heads, and a special recognition to Dallas, our finance director, who puts it all together. We'll give him a week.
All right. The 2018 legislative items. Commissioner Martin.
Mr. Mayor, I reviewed through some of the items that we were entertaining. I had come up with 5 that I was interested in, and I felt were in the best interest of the city. Those are: number 1, funding for the wastewater utility extension down State Road 26. Number 6, the joint funding with the City of Archer for funding to extend the wastewater utilities from Newberry to Archer. Number 7, legislation to preempt charter counties from enacting legislation applicable to municipalities within the county. That helps with overreach. And then items number 13 and 14, support the school board requesting funding for school construction. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I hear in the public, and seeing new portables going in is not something that I'm totally interested in when there are other options. And then 14th was opposing legislation that negatively impacts cities' ability to self-govern. We could potentially even marry that one into number 7, but so that was my feedback. 1, 6, 7, 13, and 14 from the backup. 1, 6, 7, 13, and 14.
All right, we have a head nod about those 5 from other commissioners. Anyone else have one that's not on that list that they feel passionate they want to add to Mike's plate to go lobby for us? Are those the 5 that everybody was thinking about? Is it going to be that easy?
That was identical to mine.
Okay, I got to.
14, 13, 7, 6, and 1.
All right.
Home rule's my number 1.
Hearing no other additions, we will send Mike off with those 5. You have your marching orders, sir. Good luck to you.
I do, and that meeting is scheduled for next week, I think.
19th.
And I think that I've gotten feedback that Joy
Commissioner Glanzer's going.
planning. Are you planning to attend?
I'm planning to be there.
Is anyone else planning to attend? And I am happy to present these items, but I'll always offer. I'll always offer for a commissioner or the mayor to share them. I think it probably is a little more impactful, realizing that staff tends to maybe have more background, but happy to meet with you, coach you up, and it's from 9 to 3. We sent in our request to speak today. They haven't told us exactly what time yet, have they? No, we have not received feedback on what time, but they'll give us a time slot.
And I'm still working on
Absolutely.
attending with you.
We'll put together a handout that we can then distribute, and talking points if you'd like to speak.
All right. That will bring us to comments. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, it has been maybe the most low-key period of time since I started working with the city. It got so boring I started cleaning my office. So
Now we know you're lying.
walk by my office for you. I had a little downtime. Let me give you a storm update and response. That you all are aware that when Hurricane Irma came through, we lost power to all residents for a period of time. Actually, we did it a couple of times, but we managed to get staff to come out and respond and get us back in power. We lost power again somewhere around 11:30, and staff was able to mobilize to work first thing the next morning, Monday morning, and got, I believe, most of the circuits back up by 10, 11 o'clock. And then we had a half dozen customers out, and we managed to get them up before leaving that evening. Storm debris is a big question for everybody. We are going to begin collection of storm debris next week. We're going to be performing that with our crews and our claw truck. Not to be confused with yard waste collection by Waste Pro. Waste Pro collected today. They collected today, so if you put it out curbside and it met the collection quantity, size, weight requirements, they would pick it up. Everything else it still needs to be curbside. We can't go on a private property and get it, but we'll collect it with the claw truck beginning next week. We figured we'd give everybody a chance to pull it out curbside rather than make a sweep this week and make a sweep next week and then hear, hey, I haven't got mine out yet, and make a last sweep. So we're trying to give everybody the weekend to get it cut up and bring it curbside, and hopefully we can be as efficient as possible, minimize the number of trips through town.
One question about that.
Yes, sir.
The last time, I thought we went ahead and did away with the size requirements and stuff. Is that?
For storm debris, there is no size requirement. Whatever comes curbside, we collect. Waste Pro is continuing to collect yard waste. The size requirement is there. So it is acceptable. It's even preferable to separate. Here's the waste pro pile, which is regular, and it meets our collection size requirements. And then here's the storm debris pile, that we will just pick up with the claw truck and move on down the line.
So the city of Newberry just picks that up?
We're going to pick that up with our forces and our truck. One thing to point out, we can't mix non-vegetative material with that. So people, if you have lumber or shingles, anything that collapse, fencing, do not mix it with that storm debris. If we get the declaration, FEMA's going to come in and tell us what they're willing to do. If FEMA's willing to collect all that, we'll have it put in a separate pile and we'll make a separate sweep to pick those things up. I'm not sure. Dead cats, regular garbage can. Waste Pro gets those. And your neighbor called and was looking, so now we experienced a very small release wastewater, only one release, which we thought was pretty good. GRU is full blown over there because of the number of power outages. It was lower than the reportable quantity of 1,000 gallons. We treated it, we signed it, we've complied with all the state requirements for that, and we all of our lift stations are operating now, so we should be fine. That was kind of an after effect outage. We restored power and we're moving on, and we had a transformer blow, killed a section of the neighborhood again, and before we could get around there with our wastewater pump, which we had already collected, we had a sewage release. So unfortunate. We have today, actually yesterday and today, began realizing an extreme amount of sinkhole development in our community, which is pretty common. Yesterday we had one at Southwest 3rd Avenue and Southwest 65th Terrace, resulted in a water main failure. This was a pretty large sinkhole that developed, so large that we were working on one side of the street, and on the other side of the street, the stop sign, which was 7 feet tall, just sank all the way to ground level while we were watching. It's like, oh man, how big is that sinkhole? So we filled it up with concrete rubble and flowable fill material. Feel like it's good and stabilized. We will actually come back with an engineering firm to check and make sure there's no voids left under there. When it's that big, it's hard to make sure you got them all. We had a large one occur on State Road 26 today, just immediately west of where the one happened several months ago. Luckily, the water main hasn't failed, and no one has accused the city of Newberry of creating that one. They've all accepted that rainfall and Mother Nature created this one. At least today. If they're going to blame us, we'll hear about it later. We had some sinkholes develop at Champion Parks. We'll get out there tomorrow and start restoration on that. Jamie left the meeting to go check out another one that he got a call about, and there's one at Newberry High School at minimum. So we've been following around on those things, trying to repair the ones we can. The ones that are in public right-of-way or on city property, the ones that are on private property, we're offering insights as to what we think is the best way to approach it and help our residents out in that way. Biggest news in the numerous teleconferences that we have, and I'm up to 4 a day, usually all at the same time, so I'm missing some of them. But I-75, the Santa Fe River is going to crest higher than it ever has, and the water is going to come up over all of the bridges that separate us from Columbia County. So the 27 bridge between High Springs and Fort White is already closed. Same for the 441 bridge. The 47 bridge is expected to close tomorrow early in the morning. I-75 is expected to close tomorrow in the morning, and the 241 bridge is already closed. So we're essentially going to be isolated from the northern half of Florida. It's really impacting mutual aid crews, any type of distribution of materials getting down south, are now having to go around through Jacksonville and then come back across the state if they're set for delivery here, or go west and come down maybe 19 to get south of us. Should affect fuel. Again, fuel deliveries, we thought we were kind of in the clear on that. It may begin to start coming back and affecting our fuel deliveries. We'll continue to stay engaged in that and report to you as fast as I can type them out. Sometimes I just can't get them all. I've resorted to forwarding the press releases from the county to you all, so I hope you don't mind. Fuel, as I mentioned, is restored. We've got fuel in Newberry now. We'll see if that continues. Early on in the storm, we had offered both Central Florida Cooperative, Electric Cooperative, and Clay Electric Cooperative mutual aid. It was the first day of the storm, and we got very little feedback from them. As it turns out, they were just overwhelmed. We followed up again today, and both have accepted our offer. I think we have a crew reporting to Clay Electric first thing in the morning, and we'll begin helping them restore the Gainesville area. We've requested that we specifically work within Newberry city limits, but we will still have to work under their plan, and I'm not sure if they'll dedicate our crew to Newberry city limits or not. And as soon as we hear back from Central Florida, we'll be doing the same with them. We've reached out to the city of Alachua. I believe that they were also going to offer a crew to assist Clay Electric tomorrow as well.
Can I jump
Yes,
in
sir.
on that one? On this mutual aid with the co-ops that serve our residents, I've already been in contact with 2 or 3 mayors in the surrounding cities to see if we can get together and offer some encouragement. If we need to work out individual mutual aid agreements with each of these so that we can go to them and they can come to us. But, I want to make sure that this happens before we are in this situation again. We should have had this before the storm so that we could be helping at least our residents inside of our cities, but are on their systems. So, hopefully the manager has already sort of broken that seal, and now we can take that next step to not just have an agreement for this situation, but let's have a standing agreement in the future. I understand all the co-ops are different and it's complicated and there's liability issues and all of those kinds of things, and I think we've got a manager who luckily has a lot of experience in utility and can address those concerns. But this is something that I don't ever want to see our residents in the city of Newberry out of power, and we have crews that are just sitting here idle and can't go and help and offer that assistance. So I'm going to push on this pretty hard. The mayors of Archer and High Springs and Chiefland are all on board as well. So hopefully the co-ops will just work with us, and political pressure won't need to enter into it. But I did want to ask y'all's, I've already been contacting informally those mayors, but if that comes to that, I want to make sure the commission is aware, and I have your blessing to be having those kind of conversations. So, thank you.
And just to offer a little background on that, historically, municipally owned electrics kind of stood together and restored themselves, and we get people coming from all over the southeast and the northeast to help us through American Public Power Agency. The IOUs, the independents like Duke, Independent and Florida Power and Light and Tampa Electric did the same thing. They partner with their brethren, and then the co-ops do the same thing. And after Hermine went through last year and devastated Tallahassee, the governor took a special interest and pretty much directed that y'all will provide mutual aid to one another, and it'll all be coordinated, and he's going to be the pivot point, and he has. And so last year, all of those parties met at his direction to develop a statewide mutual aid agreement, and the co-ops participated. When it got right to the end and we were getting into storm season, something came up that the co-ops couldn't live with, and as I understand it from the munis, it was a legitimate beef, and so the co-ops took a pass with the thought that we'll get it figured out before next storm season. So when I don't want to characterize it as just this flat out defiance. It was, as I understand it, a legitimate beef, but they didn't sign the agreement, and so they kind of gotten left out, at least as far as municipalities and IOUs helping them. But Mayor Marlowe is correct. We should extend those, in the meantime, extend those opportunities to work with them, at least Clay Electric in Central Florida, regardless of what happens at the statewide level. Would be, chances are they'll be helping us as much or more as we might be helping them. It works both ways. I have just two items. There is a damage assessment survey for businesses that are going around. That's coming through Alachua County's EOC. and through their economic development. Brian is spearheading that for us, but we are pushing it out to businesses. There's some forms to fill out so that FEMA can assess the amount of damages that businesses have incurred and make decisions on whether we hit certain thresholds and how much they can participate, as I understand it. So I just wanted to put that on your radar, that we are pushing things out to businesses and the communities to assess their damages. Just the county stormwater manual, all of that got pushed back. The county pulled that back last week and said, hey, with the storm coming, we're going to push it back for at least a month or so. So that went off the radar. And then just finally, I'd like to tell you that I don't have a lot of experience with Alachua County EOC and sheltering and things of that. I've always been in the utility business, and typically you're on your own when you're in the utility business. I got a chance to watch Alachua County EOC and their sheltering and what the sheriff's office was doing. Major impressive, major kudos. They really ran an impressive operation to put that many shelters in service, keep that many people happy. We were visiting them while I was visiting them. Brad kind of moved in and lived with them for about 5 days, but they were super well-run organizations, and I found that the county and their EOC staff and the school board and the sheriff's office to be tremendously cooperative. Just could not brag on them enough, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, from time to time we may have a disparaging comment to make about one or all of those agencies that I probably shouldn't make, but I could not extend higher kudos to all of those agencies for their response to sheltering in Newberry and support for the city of Newberry during the Hurricane Irma event. That concludes my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Attorney? Thank you. Madam Clerk? Thank you. All right. Commissioner Coleman?
I want to thank all the volunteers. I was up there at Oakview Middle School and for quite a while, but nothing like what a lot of those people were doing. Unbelievable. The EOC, that was incredible. Brad, great job. You, Mayor, unbelievable. Back, forth, you were everywhere. I just sat over there. So, Miss Judy Rice, she was there too. The one that I really want to call out for this is the ASO, Miss Montana Sayers. Unbelievable. She kept it under control. She was everywhere. It was just, she did a great job. And if I see her again, I'm going to let her know big time. And I believe that's it. And all the staff. It's just, we did a great job, and that all goes to Mike New. What a great delegator. So, thank you.
Absolutely. Commissioner McGehee?
Got a little golf clap going on back there.
Oh, yeah.
That was no. Just wanted to echo Commissioner Coleman's comments. You know, the in years past we've had some outages, flickers, flashes. You know, nice sunny days, and for our electric grid to last as long as it did, that was pretty impressive. To me, what was even more impressive is around 7 o'clock when we were shutting it all down. We had the North Circuit go, and it could have potentially been disastrous when it comes to our lift stations. But you know, we had some guys that went out there and got everything back up running, and I think we went to 3:30 in the morning. You know, that's pretty awesome. So, you know, we owe a lot of gratitude to not only those guys, but the ones that work the shelters, the ones that were able to get everything up and going, you know, in such a short time. I had actually posted, I went up to check on my shop, and, you know, I was up there 10:30, 11 o'clock, and the power's on, and I was just so proud of the effort that those you know, that staff put into, I mean, it got me kind of emotional. It was just really awesome to see. It was, I know last year I was pretty involved with, you know, the cleanup. This year I was out at my parents' house. We had a couple big trees go down, so I was out there with my dad moving trees, but so I wasn't able to, you know, to really be a part of it. But it was just nice knowing that we've got such a dedicated group of employees, and just thank them for all that they've done.
Commissioner Coleman?
I want to add on here. Also, the cafeteria staff at Oakview, unbelievable. I mean, they kept these. Well, yeah. They didn't cut the biscuits in half. You know, you had to do that yourself. Put the chicken, but unbelievable. They and I don't know. I just know Tammy over there, and I know that she's got some pretty bad news on her dad, but she was there the whole time. That was unbelievable. So that whole staff with the cafeteria staff, and all this other food that just kept coming in, which I don't know where it come from. I was thinking at one time Brad was cooking it, but who knows?
Thank you. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yeah, I too want to thank the staff and all the volunteers and everybody that did come out and participated. Unfortunately, I was locked in at the hospital for 36 hours taking care of patients, so I wasn't able to get around and find out what was going on, but the mayor and the manager kept me informed of what was happening, which is really a nice asset. And I will tell you, the stretchers at the hospital are not fun to sleep on, but saving them lives. And but I appreciate everybody that was around and helped out, and hopefully we won't have to go through this again.
Thank you. Commissioner Martin?
It's times like this that I really enjoy the ability to shine as to not only leadership but preparations and how everybody can kind of cooperate with each other. You know, we're not great because we're in Newberry. Newberry is great because we're here and we're working together. So it's nice to be able to do those sorts of things. And I want everybody to pat themselves on the back, and let's just stick it out another week or so we can get it over the finish line within these little loose ends.
Thank you.
I can't be as eloquent as Commissioner Coleman, but I'll try. I'm going to echo what everybody said. There was two gentlemen that I heard of the first night at 9 o'clock went out and braved the storm when the first power went off on the North Circuit. I think they said it was Rance and Bucky. I've never met them, but I hope I do someday, because they were great and we were grateful. I'll tell you what, I've got friends from Miami to Naples to north of here, and they all wish they lived in Newberry. And that's not usually how it is. What are you doing up in that town, you know? But and I just want to thank everybody, the staff and citizens that volunteered, and the bravery that we saw. And I'm proud to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few here. I'm going to get to my thank yous too, because it's well worth expressing. But I did one for anybody who has lost power and has been out of it for the few days. I'm happy to announce Gatorback is going to be remaining at their current location. They're staying in Newberry at their current site, and they have withdrawn their application to rezone the other property. So we wish them 5 profitable years at their current site, and hopefully they'll be able to stay much longer than that. We have Archer is still reeling. A lot of their city is down. The school board, at the request of our principal here at Newberry High School, is sending a food truck tomorrow and Friday. So from 7:30 to 8:30, the food truck will be at Archer Elementary, and 18 under eat for free. They'll be selling food for adults, parents. I think it's 11:30 to 12:30. Is that correct for lunch? Still at Archer Elementary. So if you can help us get that information out. Anybody who is in Archer and is still struggling, that's 2 meals a day that they can get to. Homecoming is next week. It's going to be an interesting homecoming this year, but the homecoming parade will be next Friday. The homecoming game will be next Friday night. We're looking at rescheduling the game against Eastside. Will be on Monday. Still thinking we'll do it at Citizens Field, but we're waiting to see if the roads will be passable in Gainesville. If not, that location will probably be moved here. Open house is Wednesday of next week, and then homecoming game will be on Friday. So next week will be a fun week again. Another fun week, But it's going to be great. So, Panther Prowl is Thursday night. Student government works real hard through hurricanes to put this on. So we would love for you guys to come out, see the show, come to the parade, and absolutely come to the game, please. We had a declaration of a state of emergency to get us through this, and we keep talking about doing our charter review, and I think it's time that we put that move that up the list of priorities. There are some things in our charter that I think are outdated, some issues that I know people would like to talk about. In the declaration of a state of emergency, the mayor is empowered with emergency powers. I think that was written before we had a city manager. I think it would clearly be better for that person to be the city manager. But those are kind of issues that we can address in a charter review. So I know with budget getting done, maybe now is the time to really kind of kickstart that. And so I would encourage you, if you agree, to look at the charter and everything that you have talked about and are interested in. And we've spent the last, how long has it been? 10 years, 12 years, 14 years since we did it? 12 years. Now's, you only get a shot at this once a decade. So, spend some time reading it and thinking about what we could do a little bit better. But I think, for that point especially, kind of brought it home to me. Not that I'm not trying to shirk any responsibilities, but the manager is much more, in the know, in the immediate. And we all have jobs. We get stuck doing our lives. He's here. It is his job. So I think it makes more sense for that, for him to be in that role. I think we got an email. We lost our historic fountain, the oldest fountain here in Newberry, a while back, and we have struck out on finding somebody who can rebuild that exactly the way it was. We've put out bids, we've looked, we're just not we're not finding that level of skill anymore. We think we can approximate what that fountain was, but I'm not sure that we can do what that fountain was exactly. So I'm not asking for y'all to make a decision tonight, but I think you kind of need to maybe think about, is it worth trying to do a replica of it that might not fit the way that building looks exactly? Should we think about something else? Should we level it off? I just want you to I know that fountain has a lot of sentimental attachment, but if we build something and it's not quite right, then those people who are sentimentally attached won't be happy. Do you have a comment on that, or are you just not quite? No. You're sentimentally attached.
Mr. Mayor, I know you and I had talked about, and I expressed my opinion as far as I don't want to halfway do it. If we can't do it all the way, I'd almost be inclined to create the same effect of the other pillars that are in the fence line and put some sort of a memorial plaque there instead of trying to instead of from
I have an update.
Oh, an update. Hey, well, you had nothing else to do, Mr. Manager. Come on. Why didn't you send this email out?
And my apologies that he came in late last week and I did not share it with the commission. We have a quote. We found a stonemason that says he can do it. So we're going to get that pulled together and get a purchase order issued to him, and we're going to see.
Well, let's rewind the last 5 minutes then.
My apologies.
Pretend it didn't happen. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to sit down with the manager probably tomorrow or sometime and just kind of reflect on everything that we did well, because we did a whole lot of things really well during this storm, but there's always room for improvement. One of the things I'm going to be looking at is some sort of informal committee. We have a tremendous number of volunteers in this town, and I spent a lot of my time the last 4 or 5 days fielding requests for people who wanted to volunteer and didn't know what they could do. And so I think we need to find some way to funnel all that goodwill in an organized way. And I'm not in any way suggesting we create a standing committee for that, but it seems like we can, sit down and come to some better structured way to handle all of that goodwill and support. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be thinking about as we reflect and move forward. And then finally, I'll just add my gratitude to everyone else's. We have a very thankful town right now. They're very grateful, and I am one of those grateful citizens. That the leadership that this commission has provided in hiring the manager, and then the leadership that the manager has provided in the city staff, I think that all was reflected very well in the past week. It's the preparation that goes into it, as Miss Peggy pointed out on social media. We were lucky in terms of the storm, but we were also well prepared, because even if it had been worse than it was, we were ready to go. So it is all about preparation, and preparation starts when nobody wants to think about those kinds of things and nobody wants to deal with it. And you guys did, and you directed the staff to do that, and it showed this week. So to all the I'm not going to go through the list of names of people because I would leave somebody out and then I'd feel terrible. But I can give the commissioner the list of the people who were bringing all that food. It was all citizens who were volunteering. They were cooking in their kitchens right before a storm when we didn't have any idea how long the grocery stores were going to be closed, and they were donating food and time to strangers, because those people at the shelters who were getting fed, there were a lot that were from around Newberry and around our area, but there were a lot that weren't. They were from all over the state that had to come to us, and our town showed up to feed those people, to bed those people, to clothe those people, to entertain those people with toys for the kids, puzzles. It was tremendous. It was heartwarming. In fact, Newberry got such a good reputation that the Weather Channel actually contacted me. We tried to do an interview, so we had some national attention at the outpouring of love and support that happened in this town. We were, unfortunately, because of the storm, we couldn't make the satellite connection to get with the Weather Channel, but they knew about us, they had heard about us, and they were talking about the city of Newberry. So, and that's about you guys. That's about the citizens. It was the whole package. So all of those volunteers at the EOCs, that the staffs, that the county staff sent to us, they all said it was incredible. That they've never seen anything like it. That Newberry was one in a million, and it was a pleasure to be here. And Easton was the largest shelter. We had more people than any other shelter, at least at the height at the time that they were taken. So. In the county. So great job, commission, great job, staff, and most importantly, great job, Newberry residents. Absolutely. You guys really showed what it is to be a Newberryan, and it was a pleasure to work with you through this storm. And with that, we'll open it up to citizen comments. Absolutely.
What time is the homecoming parade?
Homecoming parade, I'm sorry, tell my eyes are starting to cross, right? The homecoming parade is at 3 p.m. on Friday. The game is 7:30. That one's up in the air right now. Schools are closed for tomorrow and Friday. We are attempting to have a homecoming kickoff at the town center here. We're going to see how that goes with the rising floods and all of those kinds of things. But I will certainly continue to post if we're going to have it. And Panther Prowl is Thursday night. September 21st, I think that is next Thursday, and is also at 7 p.m. So please come on out. We'll try to put on a good last-minute show here for you and support the football team as they go into the Williston Red Devils on homecoming night, hometown rivalry. Come on down. I do have to just take a moment. Every time I was at a shelter, Brad was there. And I don't know how that's possible, because I would leave a shelter and I would go to the other shelter and I'd say, wait a minute, you were just at the other shelter. How did this happen? You know? And I don't know that you've had any sleep the past 4 nights, but we do thank you for everything you've done this past week. It was incredible watching you work.
Thank you, sir. Well, first of all, Mayor, Commissioners, I want to thank EOC, the mayor, the commission for stepping up, the staff. What a terrific job, and the citizens. I could not stand here today without saying thank you to every single citizen, every single business in this community that stepped up and helped these shelters. Like the mayor said, we had the largest shelter in Alachua County, and we had food coming left and right every minute, and it was just Blake with the school board, Cilantro's, Salvation Army, Taylor Wright. I could continue and then the games for the kids, something for them to do. It's a boring place. To keep those kids occupied, to keep the adults occupied was amazing. I remember one time a person came to me and said, what can we do? How many head do you have? And trying to put the 2 shelters together, I was like, 450. And they're like, what? So, what a fantastic job this community did. Okay, we closed the shelter yesterday at noon. It's taken us now to get the shelter cleaned up, or the Easton cleaned up, and we are ready now to announce that we are going to be open tomorrow and Friday for kids to come, for parents to drop off their kids at Easton for extended daycare. It's a $20 charge per day, but we will be opening up at 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. to receive the kids so the parents can go back to work, and we'll be there to watch the kids. So I just want to let everybody know in the community that we will be open tomorrow and Friday.
That is a much appreciated gesture.
And Brad, is $20 our normal rate for that
No,
service?
sir. $20 is about a 33% discount off of our normal rate. We want to cover our costs, but we want to be able to offer something that's affordable for the families.
That's awesome.
Get credit when you can.
Thank you, sir.
That's awesome. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yes, when Cilantro's contacted me and said that they wanted to help out, they asked if they could go down, and I said absolutely. And I knew the next question was going to be how many people were there, and that was going to be a problem. And I said, I think last count was about 319, and they didn't bat an eye. They went, and I think they ended up feeding 329 people was the final count for the day that they were there. They didn't bat an eye. They had the whole family there to serve, to help out, and that was a good day. Everybody got a little taste of the heaven that we enjoy here in Newberry with Cilantro Tacos, so we appreciate that. Okay, any other citizen comments?
I'll do one. The hurricane's certainly a big deal, but you glossed over it, Mr. Mayor, on the Gatorback situation. And the resolution of that doesn't just happen magically. There was a lot of citizenry that was really in favor of that, and a lot of citizenry that was highly against the moving of Gatorback. And I know your father has been in facilitating of dispute resolution for a long time, and I think you must get that genetically from Herb. But I want to recognize you for facilitating that and getting that done, and the hurricane's certainly a big deal, and that's a really big thing that y'all are talking about. But the Gatorback situation was a big deal, fraught with potential litigation on either side, no matter what decision we make as a commission or Planning and Zoning Board labored with that, and you're part of the Planning and Zoning Board. And I don't remember how late we went, but it was late into the morning, the wee hours before everybody was finished making their comments. Everybody did have an opportunity to comment and state their piece, but that was a situation that was a very, very difficult, one of the more difficult situations that we've been faced with. And I think that's what government does when it does it best, is it facilitates resolution between private parties. And I didn't want to gloss over that without recognizing that you played a major role in getting that resolved. Of course, the two parties had to come together, but facilitating that, Mayor, and that deserves more than a gloss over in my view. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, on that. That was a big one.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm just glad Gatorback stays. That's the main thing. Okay. Any other comments tonight? Hearing none. Meeting adjourned.